Hi. Today I'd like to talk about intention. There are two important reasons why you should be mindful of intention, and this is true of whether you're in a leader role or not. And the two important reasons, one is job enlargement, and the second one is managing dynamics. So let me talk about the first one. For the last 3 decades, organizations have had a tendency to outsource, merge, and downsize, and job enlargement's been a critical part of that. And so what I mean by that is that employees are laid off, and the work that they used to perform is divided up and distributed among the surviving employees. So when it's all said and done, each employee that's survived the downsizing has more work to perform than what they did before the downsizing. And they realize that the amount of work they have to perform is more than what is humanly possible to complete. So they have more than a 40-hour job, and even when we talk about the 40-hour week, that includes casual overtime as well. Even working casual overtime, they're not capable of performing everything they're responsible for within the week. So this means that it's important that a person is mindful of intention. They need to be able to focus on what is important to do so that they don't get caught in the trap of being distracted by things that are less important, so that they're spending time on the lesser important things, and at the end of the week more important things were not done. If you think about it, even Stephen Covey in his book 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, he talked about put first things first, and what he really was talking about is that you need to be mindful of intention, that for example, emails, phone calls, unplanned meetings, and this is true in both office environments and virtual environments. All of these serve as distractions, and they offer less important things to take up your time than more important things that really need to be achieved. So a person has to be constantly mindful of intention throughout the week in order to be certain that they're working on the most important things that need to be performed. Now, the second reason that it's important to be mindful about intention is related to what I call managing dynamics. Many things in the work environment are in the category where they're truly unsolvable problems. And what I mean by that is that the problem can't be, if you apply a problem-solving mentality and select either this or that, you end up focusing too much time on that, and you end up in the downside of it. So let's talk about a few examples. Probably the most common example in teams is task and relationship. We know that teams have tasks to do, that's why they're there, but they also have relationships in terms of how they go about performing these tasks, and they have to pay attention to the relationships as well. Otherwise, the relationships get in the way of the task. Now, the perfect example of this is I can't count the number of project teams that started off and they're too quick to tasks. They jump right into tasks, and somewhere as they begin performing a task, everything comes to a stop because of disagreement about what they're doing or how they're doing it, or who is doing it, or the interactions between the people. In other words, they didn't spend the proper amount of time on a relationship before beginning the task. So then now they're distracted from the task, and they got to go back to the relationship. Same way, even in manufacturing environments where teams work, we often hear team members say from their leader they want extra time off the job, or they want the team leader to come in and help them perform their manufacturing tasks. And what happens when they do that, then the overall focus of the team, or is getting the management tasks done, it's at the expense of getting the management tasks done. So relationships are good, but the team is less productive. So it takes a combination of focusing on completing the tasks and focusing on the relationships, and this requires balance. And when I say it requires balance, this means that the leader, or as far as that goes, team members, need to be mindful of intention that this is something that has to be managed. They can't apply a problem-solving mentality to it. Another common one I hear, especially in manufacturing, is quality versus quantity. And because in the United States in the 50s and 60s there was a history of focusing on quantity, today a lot of workers want to focus on quality, but you got the same problem here, that if you focus only on quality, yeah, you're making great parts, but you're not making enough of them to be productive. The end result is going to be the same. You're going to go out of business. So it takes a focus on quality, but also it has to be the right amount of parts, and then you're completing the business model. So that requires managing quality and quantity, and once again that calls for a person to be mindful of intention. Otherwise they fall into the trap of too much of one or the other. It kind of reminds me of a story going back quite a few years, where we had one worker who was challenged. He was a good worker, but he was just going to be able to do a simple manufacturing task, and that's what he had done through his whole career. And because he was a high seniority employee, he'd put in for what we called at the time a classified job, which was a semi-skilled job. And right away there was a lot of question as to whether he would be capable of performing this or not, and some didn't even want to place him in there. But after talking about it, we decided that the rules are the rules, that he had 30 days, according to the contract in this particular location, to prove himself on this job. And so the big worry was that he would sacrifice quality because it was a skilled job. So we put the very best trainer working with him, and we asked the trainer, says, please emphasize quality, and that, which he did. And so he really spent some quality time training this person. And so finally it came the very first day this person was on their own. What he did, he spent a long amount of time painting this one part, because the skill job was painting. And then what he did, he felt really good about what he did. Matter of fact, he felt so good he went and got a shipping container and placed it in the aisle, placed a piece of cardboard over the shipping container, and he took the one piece he had painted, placed it on there, and he spent the rest of the day flagging people who were walking down the aisle and bringing them over and showing them the part that he had painted to show them just how good of a job he did. So at the end of the day, he had only painted one part. It was perfect, but it was only one part. And I think the rate on that job was something like 750 parts a day. So obviously this wasn't going to work. We're going to go out of business if we have perfect quality, but it's nowhere near the quantity needed to be competitive. And so what he had done, he had over-focused on quality, and he was not being mindful about managing quality and quantity. Another one, especially in management jobs, is planning versus execution. It has to be managed. There's some tasks need to be planned out before execution in order for execution to go smooth, and other things you can go straight to execution. So, but there needs to be a balance, and the person needs to be mindful of intention. so that they're managing that dynamic. So I like it that Peter Drucker used to say sometimes we're focused on doing things right when in fact we should be asking if we're doing the right things. And I think this illustrates, I think Peter Drucker's words illustrates this concept very well, that it's another example of being mindful of intention, that if we're being mindful of intention, then we find that intention keeps a person focused on doing the right things. And not only are they doing the right things, but they're focused on doing them right as well. And so it answers Drucker's question that it has to be managed. And so to summarize this, I'd like to say intention is a very important part of mindfulness in the workplace, because it keeps people focused on doing the right things and doing the right things in the right way. Thank you.